is now my pleasure to bring our virtual stage, dynamic and always intentional, new president of Masters of Evaluation, John White.
Thank you very much, Sandra. What an auspicious start. As I said in WhatsApp, as I waited in the waiting room, is this how the coup starts, Zoom style? All the new administrations in the waiting room and some rogue Zoom master takes control. But through it all, I was calm. I breathed. I said, as you know, I'm a slave to structure and things working. And Muriel often says, John, just breathe, just breathe. So when I saw the bull, I didn't go to my initial reaction, which is, this is some bull. No, I'm happy to be here. It's a great new year. The club's been going 2 years strong. I look forward to continuing to improve. Good to see some familiar faces. A familiar face who still is considered a guest. Joel C., why do you keep coming back, sir?
Well, this is a group that strives on getting better by looking at our abilities in different dimensions and how to grow our communication skills. Back to
Wonderful.
you.
We are at a great place. I believe we're efforting, as the word April would say, to find a table topic person. But if not, do you have any questions, burning questions that you would like answers from us later on in the meeting, Joel, if it comes to that?
Yeah, if I have questions, I'll definitely ask. But right now, I don't have any questions.
Okay. So we will be looking for a table topic person. Before we go to turn it over to the Toastmaster of the day, I do want to take care. Shantae Howard can do table topics. She's table topic evaluator.
I have questions. I made table topic questions.
Okay, because that would be a little awkward, Shantae evaluating herself. Okay, so we've got it covered, is what I heard. Thank you very much. Before we go into the meat of the meeting, I do want to acknowledge educational accomplishments. She's not here, but she will feel all our energy as we applaud and congratulate Victoria Trabosh, let's get official here, recently graduated from Harvard. But that's not the most exciting news. The more exciting news for us is that she just got a level 4 in persuasive influence. So let's give her a round of applause.
And I have completed a pass.
Judith is finishing the visionary communication today. Is that true?
Yes, I have already finished that. I just needed to be approved.
Wonderful. And these seasoned veterans know how to play the game, not the game play them. We already did what we did last year. These goals were late June. Some people may have sat on them to benefit us in July. We're not going to ask you to do that for 6 months or 7 months or to delay membership for that long. But if it's a couple days and it'll help the club, what the heck? So thank you for that, Judith, and thank you, Vicky. We now launch into our meeting. It's my pleasure. I don't know his credentials. I just know him as a vital part of our club, breathing life into our new evaluation standards and always leaving a strong impression. You will never say, have I met Vincent Nerée? You know. With that, I turn it over to him. Vincent, take it away, please. And unmute, please.
I have unmuted, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you. Good evening to yourself. And I'm so pleased that we're here with a theme of the night, which is be brave. And be brave has a very significant meaning today, which in Spain and around the world is San Fermin. The saint day of today is San Fermin. And for hundreds of years, in the northern city of Spain, in Pamplona, there were bulls running around the city in front of the audience. You will be seeing a few minutes of that.
We cannot see anything, Vincent.
You can't?
No, we still see
Sorry,
you.
thank you for telling me.
Sure. You have to share the screen. You not share the screen? No.
Now you can.
Now.
Please remember, each of these balls weighs about 1,500 pounds. So they're vicious. And people running in front of them, showing that they're not
Okay,
brave. Now, this has been a tradition which has been going on for hundreds of years. Hemingway, Ernest Hemingway, your great American author, he used to be a major fan of Los Encierros del San Fermines. And it shows that even if we are facing a bull, somebody who's really terribly strong and could probably kill us in a minute, still we have a chance and still we can stand up. And that also applies to speakers, to public speakers like you, that we can do what others can't do and show that we are brave to stand up to anxiety, stand up for ourselves and for our dignities. And I would like to call my role players onto the stage. There is Karina. She is the timer for tonight, or for today. Karina, could you explain us when you were brave and how you faced timing as his?
Yes, I'm here with my phone. Right. Vincent used till now 4 minutes and 21 seconds from his 6 minutes for presentation. I will be aware of every minute. We start already with 9 minutes late, then we must fit our time on get in time to finish our session, because time is something you cannot change. It's always gone. It's without you thinking that the time is flowing. I will make a report of each session and as well of each speech. I will do my best and see you in some minutes. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Timer. Could I call our Zoom master, Jasper, on the stage? And I would like to give him a warm applause because he created our bull's background. Have you ever been facing any bull in your life? Jasper?
Thank you, Toastmaster Vincent. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I know we had a hiccup earlier today, but we will adapt. As far as being brave, I was actually thinking about this before the meeting. I grew up in the city of Santa Clarita, and in Santa Clarita, we have a theme park called Six Flags Magic Mountain. I was introduced to roller coasters. At the very beginning, I was a little bit nervous, actually very nervous before I started going on roller coasters. But when my cousins took me and they took me to the big rides, of course, people take you to the big rides first, not the small little ones that you can start off, but everyone just expects you to go big for the first time. So I went on one of the rides, absolutely nervous. I had my eyes closed actually, but that ride just took me through loops. I remember being flipped upside down, going sideways, just absolutely nervous. My eyes were closed, so I had no idea what was going on, but I could feel it. But once I reached the ground, my cousins were absolutely proud of me because I did it. And then I realized it was a lot more fun than I realized. And growing up in Santa Clarita, I started getting season passes every year, and roller coasters have been my thing growing up. So as far as being brave, take that risk. It'll be more fun than you realize. And as my role as Toastmaster, I will be highlighting, or role as Zoom Master, I will be highlighting our speakers, providing the agenda and any matters that are related to our virtual experience. And if you can, please keep your cameras on. If not, no pressure, but if you can, as April said, please show up with your beautiful faces. Thank you, and back to you, Toastmaster Vincent.
Thank you very much, Jasper, for the wonderful introduction to roller coasters and life. I would like to call onto our virtual stage our grammarian and the word of the day. Joel, would you be prepared to do that for us? Would you be prepared all the way from Thailand to be
Yeah,
our
I'll be good to do that. And the word for the day, word for the day would be jovial. To be happy.
to be happy?
Jovial. Jovial.
Jovial. Have you made a note, ladies and gentlemen? Jovial. Joel will be listening carefully to what we are all going to say, and if we're using the word jovial, to be happy in our speeches. Last not least, we will have speeches tonight. And if I haven't got my readings wrong, we will have two speakers tonight. This is Judith and Muriel. And Judith will be the first speaker of the night, and her evaluator will be our new president, John White. Muriel has started her Toastmaster career 14 years ago, and she will be talking about mentorship and how important this was in her own Toastmaster experience. The icebreaker speech with Judith shares with her. Thank you. Karina just opened the doors and I forgot the general evaluator, but I will introduce her later on. So I would like to give the stage over to John to be able to introduce the objectives of Judith's speech.
Yes, thank you very much. I reached out to the speaker prior to the meeting, and she said there's nothing particular she's working on. She said that it's an icebreaker speech, which, as you know, is a speech to get to know someone better. So with that is Judith's objective, is that she shares something, in this case about being a protege, that will allow us to get to know her better. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster. Unmute, please.
Judith, the stage is now yours.
Okay, I would like to ask the timer to show up on the corner of, because I can't actually see the timer. So if you could put your reaction hand on and put yourself on the left corner of the screen, I think that would help.
Yes.
I guess that's not the case. Okay.
Karina, levanta la mano para como pedir el voto. Perfecto.
Not that one, reaction hand, not clapping hand. All right, so this isn't working. So let's move on here. My speech is could you show, you have the 4 to 6 minutes, right? 4, 5, and 6. Yes. What's your name, Karina? Okay, I can't hear you, but it doesn't really matter. Let's just move on. It's one of those meetings. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. I will never forget the day I met this young woman, Susan. I was 6 years old, living in a dormitory in a temporary basis, which happened in Hungary at the time in the 50s, late 50s, where people would deposit their children if they were having some sort of issues in their lives, or the state would take children away from the parents if they feel they were harmed. So there I was, confused, had no idea what is going on with me. I was all alone. And one day, the 16, 17-year-old girl showed up in my room and said, "I would like to be your big sister." Well, I wasn't sure exactly. In a Hungarian way, we usually call them little mothers, but it's a similar idea as the American version of big sisters. I wasn't quite sure if I really wanted this relationship, but I did. It turns out Susan and I have maintained a contact with each other way into our young adult years. And then I went to high school. High school was a little complicated for me. And my mother, who was an esthetician, worked in a beauty salon, and one of the hairdressers and I became friends, and they adopted me. The reason was because my mother, who was pregnant at 19 by a man who's my father, who she didn't like, was very good of providing us financially, but not so much emotionally. She wasn't sure if she really wanted to be a mother in the first place, but there we were. So I was grateful that there was this woman who I really loved through many, many years. And even when I moved to the United States, I would go back to Hungary quite often and just spending time with her. And then I came to the United States in the mid-70s because my mother married the fourth time. And then I was finding myself all confused, living in Detroit, no idea where I was in a strange city. Although I did speak some English, I learned English in high school, but speaking was not all that great. So one of my mother's clients invited me one day to have lunch. Her name was Vera. Vera was the daughter of a Czech immigrant. And that lunch started our 42 years of a relationship we had. Vera thought I was one of her fifth children. We had a wonderful relationship. Well, it wasn't also great. It has issues because I had issues. So we had our ups and downs, but we were committed to our friendship. There was an emotional connection that kept us together for a very long time. And then joined Toastmasters. I became a member of Professional Women Toastmasters. And after a second speech, Pat Allison, who was one of the founders of the club, asked me if she could help me with my speeches, and I was absolutely delighted. She became my mentor, the first official mentor. We also became very good friends, and her input into my development in the Toastmaster organization was just really very valuable. I can't even express how. Pat Allison we also stayed friends for many years, even after she left the organization. And she also passed away a few years ago. So when I was preparing this speech and thinking about the women who helped me all these different stages, chapters in my life, I didn't think that this is going to be an emotional journey for me, but it turned out to be. And then I became a mentor to quite a few people. And I realized what an incredible privilege that is to have that relationship with another person, which is not just about speaking and writing and performing, but also the fact is to have an intimate relationship with another person and a commitment in certainly as well. I am sure that many of you had mentors in your life, and if you didn't have mentors in this organization and become a mentee, it is really, really important. That is nothing like having these relationships in one's life. And that was my journey as a protege. And I am very grateful for that. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Judith. Thank you very much indeed for this very informative speech. You now have 90 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, to send a personal message to Judith through the chat and give her some feedback on her speech, please.
Time is over.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tyner. Before we continue to our second speaker, I would like to welcome Pat Caslin. He used to be our Vice President of Education. We haven't seen him for a long time, and I'm so very happy to say good evening to him. And I always have questions. I know that you're a brave man. Would you be able to do the table topics for us tonight? You will have about 10 minutes to prepare them while Muriel is giving a speech. Is that a yes or a no? Pat, now we can hear you.
I can't hear you.
So, say something, please.
I'm interpreting for him. He said, yes, I'm working on my audio.
Yeah, working on my audio. Thank you, John. Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, no, I'll do table topics. That's fine.
Wonderful. I would like to commend our president. He does lip reading as well. I always know he he doesn't only read our minds, he also is able to do that. So, next speaker on the block is Muriel. Muriel is a wonderful part of our club. She's part of our team to get new members and to help them to integrate inside our club. She has been a Toastmaster since 2018. She received her DTM in 2020. In today's presentation, we'll talk about something very important: the difference between truth and factual data. And I will turn the stage over to Nerée, who will give us all the details about her project and objectives of her speech. Nerée, the stage is yours.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Thank you to our jovial Toastmaster there, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. Muriel Shabazz this evening is preparing to speak professionally. So the objectives from Muriel, there's two types, her personal and the ones that are given through pathways. Exemplify the point of view or message you would convey as a professional level speaker. You may choose to use visual aids if they fit your speech and your style, and your speech may be humorous, informational, or any style that appeals to you and supports your speech content. Muriel's personal objectives for this speech are to speak with minimal notes, with continued eye contact, and as always, enthusiasm. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. I understand your speech is 10 to 15 minutes, is that right?
It's on the evaluation, it says what, 15 to 17, but yeah, right at 15 is fine, Karina.
Well, what timing would you like to see? What timing?
13, 14,
Green. Okay, 13 green, 14 yellow, 15 red.
that's cool. Yes, that's it. Thank
Quick
you.
note, by request, I will pause the recording for our second speaker. It was by request, just in case you see the recording go off.
Okay, that's cool. And no spotlight, not necessary.
All right. And these will be recorded, ladies and gentlemen, so you can look at your own performance tomorrow or the day after.
Thank you.
I would like to call Pat onto the virtual stage. I can see he is already unmuted, so there will not be no lip reading. There will be actually listening skills. Pat, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. I am a fan of poetry, and certain poets, Irish poets particularly, and some American poets have always fascinated me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quote you some lines from some poetry and ask you, what does it mean to you? So I'm going to start off with the Nobel Prize winning poet, William Butler Yeats, his most famous poem, He Wishes for the Thoughts of Heaven. And there's 3 lines on that go like this. But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread in my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread in my dreams. So now let me just get my list of participants up here, if I may. And I'm going to ask, let me see who hasn't. John White. When was the last time somebody shared their dreams with you, and how softly did you tread on them?
I don't recall someone sharing their dreams with me. Not that people are loath to do that or have to be careful not to do that, because I would tread heavily. I'm reminded, Pat, from time to time I go to these men's or human growth, personal development conferences, and you go back, it's transformational, you're changed, you go back as a spouse or a friend, they say, how was it? What'd you learn? And it never goes well, because all of a sudden you have to justify it, and you can't quite describe the indescribable or the transcendent. And it reminds me of a saying, and I don't mean to be critical of the author, which is, what's to be gained with oversharing some of these things? But I don't think that's the question you're asking. I think what you're saying is, when someone does you the honor and privilege to share something like that, that you ought to be supportive. Maybe every now and then there is a time for critical feedback, but I think mostly it's a time to respect and support and to encourage someone because they had the courage, the braveness to share that with you. And that's a real honor. And and we can easily be discouraged. So if you were to trample heavily, someone might never share that dream with another person. So I don't recall trampling on anyone. If I did, I apologize. And it's the most intimate and personal thing to share if you do. And I think we ought to treat it with respect and kindness and support. Thank you for that question.
Thank you very much, John. This is another quote from Yeats's poem, The Lake Isle of Innisfree, where he laments for not being near the lake. And he talks about, I hear it on the roadway, I hear it on the pavements grey, I hear it in the deep heart's core. What's in the deep core of your heart that you constantly hear? April, if you're there.
I'm here, and I thank you for calling on me. Right now, what's in the core of my heart is the god-awful truth that Muriel shared with us today as to my American heritage and history. My heart is sore to hear that. It's been so long, and I know today lingers. I was reviewing some friends on Facebook today, and I love it that there are many, many colors and many, many great souls out there. I want to be part of that equitable landscape. I want to nourish the growth there, where the level playing field is what is provided, not to be walked on, to be walked within. And I appreciate, Muriel, the strength of character and stand-up woman that you are, for sharing that with us. It was hard to hear in some respects. And yet I can also go to sharing what's in my heart. Sometimes I have dreams, John, so I'll share those with you and the rest of you too. Thank you for calling on me, Pat, and it's grand to have you back. Best
Thank you
April.
very much, April, for that great answer. This is another Yeats quote from the end of one of his poets, one of his poems where he refers to a lot of famous Irish authors and poets. And he says that he knew, and he says, think where man's glory most begins and ends, and say my glory was, I had such friends. Think where man's glory most begins and ends, and say my glory was, I had such friends. Can you say that your glory is in your friends, Ray?
Thank you, Pat. Welcome back to the stage. William Butler Yeats. I visited his gravestone on a journey into Ireland. What a speaker he was. Can I share that thought that friends are the most important thing? Yes, I certainly can. I think a lot of people, when they come to the end of their days or their final days, wherever it may be, we reflect back on what we've achieved in life for a fleeting second, because that's not what's important. What's really important is the relationships we have and the friendships we make. So many times we only really have the opportunity in life to create a handful of great friendships. And, life gets so busy, we tend to forget what we're doing. We let things go past, arguments happen. We don't recompense, we don't pick up the phone. And that's what we should do more of. We should reflect back on our friendships, those great friendships, those 5 friends that we haven't spoken to for a long time. Pick up the phone, call them, because I'm sure you'll all agree, no one in this room wants to be the person at the end of their days that actually regrets it. William Butler Yeats, a fine Irish spokesman. Back to you, Pat.
Thank you. Do you remember the inscription on his gravestone?
I think it was Brown Penny. It related to the Brown Penny quote. Maybe. I could be wrong.
Cast a cold eye on life, on death, horseman pass by. They're still trying to figure out what he meant.
And I tell you, it's a really eerie road along there where his grave is buried. All right.
There you go. Thank you for that, Ray. This one, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Sandra, is your experience of education as filling the pail or lighting the fire?
I would say my idea of education is pursuit. One of the best teachers I had in high school taught us not the answers, but how to find them for ourselves and how to think for ourselves, which I think is vital for all of us, in that we just don't digest whatever anybody says whole. that we chew on it, we think on it, we do our research and make up our own minds for ourselves. That would allow for more diverse discussions, which I love in education. And that's what I love in Toastmasters as well, is that we get to discuss amongst ourselves things that work, things that could have improved. And we learn from each other. We learn from life. But most of all, we learn from the pursuit of education and from finding and discerning the answers on our own and then discussing them, not keeping them to ourselves, but discussing them with others. Back to you, Pat.
Thank you very much, Sandra. A very considered answer. The next one is a quote from Robert Frost. The best way out is always through. The best way out is always through. When's the last time, Karina, when is the last time you realized that the best way out was through? You faced a problem and instead of going around it, you had to go through it. You're on mute.
Now I can speak. I think I always try to go through the problems, because if you don't go through, you never go. You stay, you still learn, and you don't take decisions, you don't grow, you don't go, you don't flow with your life. The important thing is to focus on your goals and go through it. Doesn't matter if you fall down. You wake up again and continue your way. Every time you fall, you learn something. It's the only way to learn. Falling and recovering, going through all the problems, going through all your life. I enjoy risking a little bit, not much, but if you don't risk, if you don't go out of your comfort zone, you will never grow. And I like to grow, I like to learn, I like to be more, I don't know the word, more creative, more interested in what I'm doing. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you, Karina. Do I have time for one more, Madam Timer?
Yes, one more.
One more. This is a quote, it's the last couplet from an E.E. Cummings poem called Maggie and Millie and Molly and May. And it starts off, Maggie, Millie and Molly and May went down to the sea to play one day. And it goes on about what each of them discovered. But the last is, it describes, May came home with a smooth round stone, as small as a world and as large as a lone. As small as a world and as large as a lone. Joel, what do you think he was referring to when he talked about as small as a world and as large as a lone?
Table topic master, fellow members. When we reference something small, we tend to show the power that smallness is not a failure. Because when we eat hot peppers or small peppers, they could be very spicy. So likewise, we need to recognize, or I have recognized, that through the power of communicating your thought, your idea, the size doesn't matter. It's the passage or choice of words that hits us, that comes, that conveys the message, that paints the picture red as opposed to green. bulls are what we see here are generally, there's a concept of red around it. We don't have other colors like purple or other images, but we can imagine those other images and speak about it and give us more strength, because that makes us stand out. That gives us strength that is not prevailed through the course of time. In this changing world, we need to show our uniqueness, and the image that we can see can be a picture or can be words that can express and prevail a picture in our minds. And we could use big words or small words, but we sometimes think that small words like go, 2-letter word, is not going to get us anywhere, but it does. Back to you.
Thank you, Joel. And thank you, everybody, for listening to those impromptu questions and giving me the opportunity to speak a little poetry or a little lines of poetry. And I will now hand you back to our Toastmaster of the day, to Vincent.
Thank you very much, Pat. And I really, truly appreciate that you came up with such meaningful table topics at a moment's notice. Now it is time for me to say goodbye to you. And no, we're not going to close the meeting. No, it is Sandra, our general evaluator, who goes to take over, and she will introduce our evaluators and our role players from now on. Sandra, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Vincent. And this is my favorite time of the meeting, which is what our club name is, Masters of Evaluation, where we get feedback and share with each other our impressions of what worked, what could be improved, and to give suggestions for alternatives if that is appropriate. So I have a team, and I'm going to start off. Karina, I'm going to leave you till a little bit later so that you can give the time for everything all at once. And I'm going to start off with John, who is going to be evaluating the speech given to us by Judith. John, would you like to give that evaluation, please?
Great. Yeah, thank you. It's an honor to do so. I want to say, Judith, I've heard you speak a number of times. I think I've heard this speech before, but if memory serves, I don't know that I got the childhood portion. So I want to commend you. This truly was an icebreaker in the real sense. And while I've known you for a while, I feel like today I know you much better. And using the theme of bravery, I thought it did take some bravery to touch on this and to share things that I don't think have been shared before. So kudos to that. I also give you props for how you started off the speech. I know with the technology and the pinning of the timer and maybe leading up to the start of the meeting, it was a little unsettling and hard to sort of get your feet grounded. And you started well. You did great. I liked your presence. I think it's a natural way that you deliver, but your pauses and your pace and just the way that you communicate causes us to really sit on every word. So you're one of these people that when you talk, people listen. And I hope that you continue to take advantage of that. As far as your presence in the Zoom space, it was great. It appeared your camera was a little off to the center. So you seem to be looking not directly at the camera, an issue that I have, but I commend you for standing up. I know Vicky and others do that. It adds energy to it. And it's just something about, there's a little more gravitas or oomph to it. So I give you credit for that. As far as the content of the speech, there were these ladies in your life that were very instrumental in how important they were. There was Susan, Vera, then Pat. The Susan story about the big sis, I really liked. I commend you that you talked about your mom, but you didn't beat her up. But it was clear that not clear. You mentioned that she was 4-time married, so maybe love and parenting wasn't her on the top of her strengths. I mean, we all can relate. But I sometimes when we talk about personal things, it's hard. It's easy to go in on someone, and you didn't do that. You talked at the end about you didn't know in giving this speech how emotional it would be. And we felt that, but you didn't fully share, and I'm an overshare. So maybe you and I are on different sides of the spectrum. So somewhere in the middle might be the sweet spot. Perhaps if you want, this is for areas of improvement. This was an icebreaker. We got to know you, goal accomplished. If you wanted to make it inspirational or motivational or a call to action, maybe talk about what a profound experience it was. You talked about one person that said it was up and down, but there was an emotional connection. And I thought that was a very insightful point about life. It's not all perfect. It's not all good, but these women were here for me. They were emotionally connected. They were available. They cared about my well-being while they were imperfect, things of that sort. And then maybe touch about how that motivated you to be a mentor and to share that gift. That's if you wanted to make it inspirational. It was a great speech. Thank you very much, Judith, for sharing.
Thank you, John. Those were all excellent points, and it's obvious that you were paying good attention to Judith's speech. Next, we have Ray, and Ray is going to be evaluating Muriel's passionate speech. I don't envy you at all. You've got a big job ahead of you, Ray, but please do give us your evaluation.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. We want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but. Jovial Muriel, I'm going to evaluate you this evening as a speaker, not the topic. Sunrises and sunsets. You set the scene. You're a great storyteller. You have a lovely voice using the rise and fall of your own cadence. Here's what I really liked about it. I loved your power pause before you spoke about white people. We all took a breath in. Wow, what's going to happen here? Are we going to hear something controversial? But that's how you get the audience on the edge of their seat. Eye contact was great, enthusiasm. Give me liberty or give me death. Fine rhetoric throughout the speech. Vocal variety we've touched on with the peaks and troughs. So there's a lot of things you're doing in this speech that are fantastic, and you do them well. But how can we help Muriel evolve and improve? That's what we're all looking for. We're looking for constructive feedback. Well, let's look at your objectives. What were your objectives this evening? So one of your objectives was to use minimal notes, I do believe, and to maintain eye contact as much as possible. Well, I'm going to say I was looking at about 50% there. I wanted to see a little bit more because from the start, from the sunsets and sunrises, I was catching the eyes going down, your head tilting. So maybe use the notes less. And if you're going to learn any part of the speech, it's the beginning and the end. Yeah? Power to the punch. You've got to start. So know your opening. Framing. Let's talk about, we're on Zoom here. Now you're up close and personal, and that's your style. But perhaps you could take a step back. And in that frame, we can see your head and shoulders and your arms for body language. But when you're up close to the screen like this, all we see is your eyes, where they're going, up and down, and it's a little bit too close. So just take that one step back, maybe. You also had an opportunity to use slides on this presentation. Perhaps they might have helped you, because there was some great speech throughout the whole thing, but it could have been illustrated with maybe 1 or 2, 3, 4, half a dozen slides. It's just to illustrate your point. Another point, maybe to set the scene a little bit deeper. You opened with sunrises and sunsets. Take us there. Let us think about it. That glorious first morning rays of sunshine, just as they hit you. Or that moment where you're sitting on the beach watching the sun fade away. Picture yourself there. You put us in the speech straight away. 2 good pauses, especially the reflective one at the end, before you started talking about Toastmasters. Again, we all went, what's going to happen here? And it's an exciting pause, but you used them really well, those 2. We think you deliver your message with power, poise, and presence. Try not to respond to the chat. When you're finished a speech, you're finished a speech. Don't get embroiled in any chat or any arguments or any catcalls from the audience. When it's finished, it's done. That's the truth, nothing but the truth. Well done for choosing a topic that you can take outside of Toastmasters professionally, because that is the purpose of your path. Fantastic job, Muriel. We loved it. Thank you so much. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Ray, very much. And now, if Shantae has screen share capabilities, we'd like to turn it over to her for her evaluation of our table topics answers.
I'm working on it. I'm trying to find her on the screen. I don't seem to. Jasper Sandra Shante, there she is. I'm sorry.
There you go.
She will be our.
No worries, Vincent. I will stay completely jovial as I sit here quietly and wait for you to give me screen share capability.
I'm sorry. I just. I need to go to the other screen. Just a second.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, I guess I'll just get started. I don't want to hold it up because I know we're back on time. So we had amazing table topics from Pat Caslin, who gave very thought-provoking questions. Thank you, Pat. It was amazing that you were able to jump in such short notice and also be able to give amazing feedback. We started off with John, who gave us great insights on the question. John, you continuously repeated the question, which I thought was great because it gave us a nice reminder of what was being asked as you were continuously thinking and answering the question. The only feedback I have for you, John, is eye contact. You weren't really making a lot of eye contact with the camera, so just being mindful of that green dot on your screen so that you are able to, there we go. So that you are, that we can feel like you're talking to us and not necessarily talking to somebody else who's in the room. Next, we had April. April, you reflected on the question, which I thought was absolutely amazing. You started your speech off with something that we can all relate to, which was Muriel's speech, because we were all here and had heard it. And so you gave great insights on that. And then you also brought in a personal experience, which I thought was really good. I know you're outside and it's a great sunny day, but the only feedback I have for you is lighting because it's a little dark. So I'm not really able to see your eyes as clearly as I would like to. Next up, we had Ray. Ray, you give great eye contact when you're speaking, and I felt completely connected to your story. You talked with emotion about when you were speaking about the author, which also made me feel that you had a personal connection, which made me engage more. I would have loved you to maybe take and turn the question around to the audience to give us something that we can maybe feel a little bit more connected to in with your answers. Sandra, you started off with great reflections of the question as well. You had really, really good pacing, which I thought was absolutely amazing, but I'm gonna go with lighting on you that maybe you can maybe work on a little bit. I know with the glasses, sometimes there's a glare, not sure if there's a window in front of you, but maybe changing the positioning of your device so that the lighting is lighting behind, you know what I'm trying to say, that you're against the lighting and it's not reflected on your glasses. And then we had Karina. Karina, you had great use of pauses, which I thought was absolutely amazing. I also think you have really good lighting. You were very clear and we're able to see you and connect with you. And I also thought that you gave great insights, but I would have personally loved to hear, I would have personally loved a personal story from you so that we could just connect with you a little bit more. And then last, but definitely not least, we had Joelle. Joelle, you were the only one who actually acknowledged the Toastmaster in audience, I believe. So I gave special notice to that. I was appreciative of that. You had great energy, but for you, I would say just be mindful of the time, as I am right now, because I do see the red, and that actually is the end of my report. So thank you guys very much. And I turn it back over to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Shantae. And I always love how you recap things with your slides. So that's fun. Very encouraging. Speaking of timing, let's get our timers report from Karina.
I have my list here. John had 34 seconds on the opening, more than normal or more than required, and 15 seconds more in the evaluation. Table topics was on time. Judith was 6 minutes and 30 seconds, was on time. Ray for his evaluation was 4 minutes and 12. That was something over. Muriel, 15 minutes and 6 seconds. That was perfect. Everybody was on time with the table topics. Only Joel was 2 minutes and 21 seconds. And Shantae, 3 minutes and 22 seconds. That's my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karina. Good job. Very accurate. And we appreciate that. Speaking of Joelle, it is time now to get our word of the day count and any other gems or germs that you heard along the way. Joelle.
General Evaluator. Jovial was used by a few people. Muriel and Shantae used it. I would have appreciated more people who would have used it. A lot of good words were used: enshrine, majestic, emulate, euphemism, honor and privilege, emulate and landscape were also great words that were used. A relationship could have been described as intimacy, but there was a lot of words that were trying to show intimacy. And to have someone in fall or stay in the same position, it's better to use the word static. And a great word was cadence. And that's all my grammarian's report.
Thank you, Joel. I apologize. I did not use the word of the day. However, we had some very serious, not so much jovial, but we had serious and wonderful speeches. I'm going to very quickly give my evaluation of the meeting as a whole. I won't go into the opening issue we had with the Zoom link, but we now know that and we'll correct it. I want to also commend the number of alliterations I heard tonight. Quite a few of us are getting good at those, and I know that Vincent loves those. Ray, especially, you used one that just stuck out in my mind. John, I love that you paid attention and remembered all of Muriel's friends. I mean, I don't even remember my own friends' names, for Pete's sake. So that was great. And the angle suggestion was done in a very gentle way. I appreciate that. Ray, on the speech, you mentioned that you were going on the speech quality and not the topic, which is good when you have a potentially controversial topic. However, Muriel was quite convincing and emphatic, and I think we all got her passion, and I think for all of us, that's part of why we joined Toastmasters. We have something to say. It's not that we just want to talk to each other, but we have something to say. And Muriel took good advantage of that. And I appreciate that, Jasper, you were sensitive to not recording that for her. And of course, Shantae always excels at giving back feedback and all her wonderful slides whenever she's an evaluator of any sort. So great meeting. We're ending on time. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Vincent.
Thank you very much. This was a wonderful meeting indeed. We have had a lot of information to come, particularly, I think, Muriel's speech on how we interact, how we see slavery, how we judge what has happened a few hundred years ago, perhaps not so long ago. And also, as a global club, it does not only affect people in America, it affects a world globally. And it affects those people living on the African continent today. They're still the underdogs on this planet Earth, which really is a shame. Perhaps these things should change. Maybe we as Toastmasters can do something to create a better world. Having said that, we have come to an end of our meeting, and I feel it's not right to mention fees, Muriel, particularly after you mentioned that the coffers of Toastmasters are perhaps too stuffed with bills. But I just wanted to remind you that if you pay Toastmasters in Toastmasters International website in self-pay, you still pay $45 until the end of the months. If you pay in August or in September, then it will go up to $60. So you might want to take advantage of that. But I agree that we're paying far too much, and a lot of us are members of various clubs. So we're not just talking about $45 or $60. We're talking about $45 or $60 times 2, times 3, times 4. Having said that, I would like to turn the stage over to our president to close the meeting. John, the stage is yours.
Can you hear me? All of a sudden I got an unmute thyself message. Thank you very much. It's a great meeting, 2 very important speeches, and a rough start, but we got through it, right? It was a wonderful meeting. Joel, do you care to share your thoughts on the meeting? Is Joel here still? Or yeah, there he is, Joel, right in the middle.
Yeah, it was an excellent meeting, and especially Muriel's speech gave a lot of depth about a lot of facts that we have not been taught in history books and now are coming to fusion, to reality, how it affects our history that was not said before.
Thank you, Joel. Yeah. Did I
This
cut
was
you
a
off? I
great
apologize.
meeting. Yeah,
Yeah.
this was a great meeting. I'm
And
done.
appropriate that we had the background from you, Jesper, with to be brave, because Muriel took bravery and Judith to take on that subject. Some are difficult to take, and as Muriel said, but the truth has to be spoken. So I thank you for that, and I commend the club that we have an environment. Although I think Muriel, you will give that speech, whether it's on the street corner or wherever it might be, the boardroom, but it might have part of reflected the environment that the club has established. You felt safe to give the speech. Or maybe that speaks more to Judith than Muriel.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
No, I agree.
Okay, great, cool. All right, anything, I mean, you talked about the dues, right, Vincent? Please do that by July 31st. You'll save yourself $15, which is what, 3 cups of coffee today or tea, whatever it might be. So that's worthwhile. Commit to the club. And Pat, it was wonderful seeing you, really was. We've missed you. And thank you for those poetry. Is it just me or just Irishmen and English are more familiar with poetry? I'm like, how does Ray know this stuff? Is it just part of being Irish, Ray?
No, you get interested in it, and you learn it, and and it sticks in your mind, and it speaks to you. Like poetry tells you things that prose doesn't. So I really like poetry. Certain poets. And I like sharing it. I like sharing some of those ideas and reciting them because they uplift us. They should uplift us.
Yes. No, I appreciate the poetry. Some people will talk about art, and I just I hang up. I just drop out of the meeting. So this was a stretch, but it was a good one, Pat. And it's great to see you. I'm glad you're doing well.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else that we haven't covered?
I just want to say real quickly, we're all in this together. So I hope no one is walking away. And I'm confident and have enough self-esteem to be okay with however anyone feels about what I say, because I'm saying it from a place of love and education and enlightenment. I think we've all been taught certain things that we thought were true, and we found out later that they're not. These are hard truths, but we won't mend our country or ourselves if we're quiet. And I put in the chat what Dr. King said, that it's not the words of our enemies that we'll remember, but the silence of our friends who knew better. There were so many people, and Dr. King talks about this. His allies, when he started talking on topics that they didn't like, they shut, and that's why I don't want to be recorded, because I almost said they shut the F up, but they stopped being verbal, and so I don't want any of you to feel like I don't like white people. It's not that. James Baldwin was saying that there is a fabrication. Blackness is a fabrication, because that's why I gave the example of Beyonce. I mean, and I think we just need to love each other from a place of humanity, not from a place of color or status or anything like that. So that's all I wanted to say. Because I'll take a bullet for either one of you, any one of you. And I have friends, and I know I'm going to start sounding like sometimes white people sound like my best friends.
You have white friends?
Yes, I do. Okay. I would take a bullet for Evelyn Woolridge. I'll put that on the record. Some of you may know who Evelyn Woolridge is, but I would. Brad Stopper. I mean, I can name them, but that's not where I want to go. Where I want to go is to let people know I love humanity. I love people. And it's the love that I have that causes us to speak forcefully, firmly, truthfully. And like we saw in the Matrix, we can take the blue pill and pretend that this stuff doesn't exist and divides us, or we can take the red pill and deal with the realities that we need to put on the table, discuss, thrash out, and understand that we are all God's children.
Can I lovingly offer my reaction to the speech? Do we have time for that? Do
sure,
we?
Why not?
No, we don't. Okay, we're moving on.
No, Vincent put a thumb up. He said yes.
I would say my reaction, calling slavery America's first institution, the beginning of the speech felt like a tidal wave of being critical of white folks. I'm not asking you to revise history. When you said James Baldwin, that white people get rid of their whiteness, that's an open door. That's a possibility. Whiteness is based upon this it's an artifice. It's based upon this notion that you're superior. You're not. If we were so damn inferior, why are you working so hard to keep us down? I get all of that. The power of Dr. King for me was he spoke about, as much as it was about Black folks, about this society together, a vision of what we could be together. And I didn't get that from you, Muriel. I know you love us, and I know I'm sensitive in my feelings. I felt like, I can't say the word, S blank, 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 for a lot of your speech. And I'm not asking you to, it's not about you should be worried about the white man's feeling, considering what we've done to you historically. I'm saying if you want to change my heart, you're going to have to go James Baldwin on me, or a little more about Black brilliance. Why are you trying to keep us down? Situations where we work collaboratively, because I just don't like conflict. And I felt bad for a large part of the speech. And I know we're friends. I know it doesn't. So I guess what I'm saying in the end, in a Toastmasters MoE construct, be mindful of what you're trying to accomplish. Are you just trying to get the truth out, truth be damned, and I don't care what it does to the audience? Or do you want to carry the audience together after that speech? And if it's the latter, I think you could handle us a little more delicately. That's just me.
I just want to say one thing that is absolutely true. Isn't that the first thing that we do in Toastmasters? Know your audience. And yes, absolutely, it was a great speech. But I also want to say, John, No, also Hungarians also like poetry. It's not an Irish thing. We also read a lot of poetry, and I just wanted to put some plug into where I come from.
I thought it was used to get women. I've been twice divorced, so I'm not getting anywhere near the poetry.
No, you need
Anyway.
to extend.
Well, thank you for the
Okay.
feedback.
John, in answer to your question, I was just really, really lucky that Pat picked out William Butler Yeats because it's the only poet that I've ever followed.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wants to put it in since we're just getting this out?
Are we taking a picture?
I'll
I just
go
want
to the
give my feedback also on Muriel's speech, because I didn't really, I was multitasking. I was trying to deal with all kinds of issues and I didn't write to her, but I will do so in the future.
Sign up on our website. And our next board meeting, which will be a joint board meeting, will be on the 28th. And I know I've already spoken about Muriel, but one thought about how she inspired me, and Judith also. Pat will tell me about this poet, but I think someone talked about living a quiet life of desperation. I felt that at times, and in the Toastmaster context, it had to do with the inability to speak my truth and to get something out because I didn't know how it'd be accepted. I didn't know how it'd be viewed. And so, Muriel, your strength to put that out there and to speak your truth, I think that's what we all want. And I'm thankful for a club, a group of friends, Pat, that we've assembled here, that we get where you're comfortable doing that.
Yeah,
Hey,
the quote was as small
Hey,
as
hey.
the world and as large as alone. And it was maybe the exact opposite of I think where man's story most begins and ends, but it was talking about the small as a world and large as alone is the size that you become when you become depressed. Your world compresses and you become huge in it. Small as a world and as large as alone.
As president, I'm going to have to demand that you improve your attendance this year.
Thank you, sir. I hope to
Demand, it wasn't a request.
not
I'd like
not
to
to
see
spend as
you.
much
Lovingly,
time,
he said out there.
not to spend
All
as
right.
much time ill, and I will.
Okay, well, glad you're feeling better. It's great to
Thank
see
you.
everyone. Have a great weekend.
All
Thanks for
right.
opening the meeting, April. Bye-bye. The
Peace
meeting
and
is adjourned. Joel, see you next time.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.